Okay, so the Super Mario Brothers movie just came out and broke records for the biggest animated opening of all time. Not to be annoying about it, but there are a ton of reasons that this happened. However, Illumination's cost-effective, safe, nostalgia-baiting kids movie garnered a reputation with a certain crowd of commentators who seem to all align themselves with like the worst people. And what did they say? Mario didn't go woke, so it didn't go broke. Because wokeness is definitely something that affects what makes money nowadays, right? So is go woke, go broke something that actually happens? Or are we in a particularly odd time within the history of going to the movies and there's a few things that people will need to get into their heads before assuming that a bland and inoffensive piece of children's entertainment made money because it didn't contain some brainwashing material? Really quickly laying down a definition for what woke is. Woke is pretty much just decent representation in modern movies. So let's look at the box office bombs of the 2020s in particular, since that's when all of this woke bullshit started popping up, and see what happens. Also, not to brag or anything, but I feel I am very, very overqualified since I've been actively observing box office numbers since at least 2015. So I know a thing or two about the market and what affects it. Alright, let's go. So, going over the kids' movies that bombed so far in the 2020s, I will try to start in chronological order of the films affected by COVID and then move on to the other movies. Also, kids' movies I will count as PG-13 to PG-2G rated. First up, the class of 2020. Films were collapsed by the wallop of the pandemic for the entire year, crippling the cinema industry and causing some of the worst business decisions in the history of Hollywood. So, starting off, we've got movies that were released theatrically and could maybe be marketed to kids, like The Call of the Wild, Dolittle, Mulan, Onward, and maybe Wonder Woman 1984 counts. So, let's look at those. Alright, The Call of the Wild was received with mixed reviews from critics when released, and at least in my eyes, it did way better opening than it had any right to. No pun intended, but the trailers looked like dog shit. And I was surprised as anyone when it went to #1 in the country. It didn't last long because COVID hit, but I think that sets up a couple great reasons that a movie would bomb in modern times. Poor audience interest and bad marketing. Next up, Dolittle. Dolittle was a $175 million mistake that was barely marketed at all and received awful reviews. There isn't much else to discuss. This one should just be left in the rear view. Onward was like the first movie that got some backlash for its inclusion of a lesbian secondary character that takes a backseat in a particularly forgettable Pixar movie. I bet people were like, hell yeah, this piece of woke shit bombed, it fell so hard on its second weekend. No, it was the pandemic shutdowns and uncertainty that caused this one to bomb. Mulan was another one from Disney that kind of got shafted, but I think that it would have bombed anyways because of the controversial changes made to the original movie. Also, stories of shooting in basically concentration camps in China were another thing that sort of added to it. Plus, nobody really likes the Disney remakes now. Wonder Woman 1984 closes out the year with a weak performance hindered by the 1-2 punch of the pandemic, the flu, and a dumbass decision to release on HBO Max. There wasn't any woke from what I can gather, but to be fair, woke is essentially grasping at the smallest of straws. So that's 2020. Not much in there that's woke in my eyes. The only big reason for something to bomb is Onward having that one character with next to no screen time, but that wouldn't really have done anything if it was just released normally. 2021, even less released, surprisingly. There were other movies like The Suicide Squad and The Matrix Resurrections, but those were rated R and therefore do not count. The films that counted from my observations are Space Jam: A New Legacy, Jungle Cruise, and to a lesser extent, Snake Eyes, West Side Story, and Chaos Walking. The last three are big stretches, but let's get into them. Space Jam was released, like Wonder Woman, on HBO and in theaters, and surprisingly overperformed in theaters. It made over $30 million in its opening weekend, surprising just about everyone. Now, was it woke? I don't know. Was it? It seemed to have a bunch of product placement, but that's just about it. You see, the success of a film relies on a good opening weekend, yes, but it also relies on good legs. What are legs, you ask? Not the things you stare creepily at. They're the strides a film takes after its opening weekend. Anything around or below a first weekend multiplier of 2 is a short leg and indicates that a film had issues connecting with audiences or was butchered by bad release plans. Anything from a 2.5 to a 3 is about average, and above 3 is considered good and is usually caused by rave critical reaction and audience reviews. So why do I say this? Yeah, Space Jam had shit legs because it had shit reviews and a shit release plan. Moving on. Jungle Cruise is up next, and I guess one could say that it does have some woke stuff in it. It has a gay character who, clutch my pearls, is a secondary supporting character. Oh my word of God, that's just the worst. So why did it bomb? Well, Dwayne Johnson ain't fucking cheap, and this piece of rip-off Pirates of the Caribbean cost $200 million to produce without marketing. It did well at the box office leg-wise, but it didn't really have much of an opening. $115 million domestic and another $100 million internationally is quite a feat for an industry that was still reeling and having trouble getting back to 100% of what it was before. Add on mixed reviews and a simultaneous release on Disney+, you've got yourself a recipe for a bomb without wokeness. So no, wokeness didn't break this cruise, and Benny Johnson probably still wants to go on it. Lumping Snake Eyes, West Side Story, and Chaos Walking all into one spot, there's a very simple reason that these bombed, and the reason is quite important for later. Nobody asked for them. West Side Story, while well reviewed, is a musical with a budget of $100 million. Nothing will help a movie back from that kind of budget. Then there's Snake Eyes and Chaos Walking, two big budget movies that were completely forgotten after they were released. So relevance really does help with a movie making money. And looking at Chaos's awful reviews and Snake Eyes' lack of public interest since 2013, no wonder these movies bombed. So that's 2021. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Bad movies bombed, poorly marketed movies bombed, expensive movies bombed, only Jungle Cruise went woke, and while it did go broke, there's everything and everything's mother in the way of blaming that financial failure on the writing of one character. Moving on to 2022. 2022 had some of the most high-profile examples of films bombing that were whined at for being too woke. Movies that bombed include The 355, Black Adam, Lightyear, Strange World, Turning Red, and literally any other movie released besides Moonfall. So, let's look at some of the lesser-known ones and then work our way up in wokeness. The 355, like Snake Eyes and Chaos Walking, didn't really have any relevance to speak of. It's PG-13, but it seems like it was marketed towards adults. The only woke thing about it is that it's led by women, but I'd hardly count the leading cast of a decently budgeted movie being what half of the human race is comprised of as woke. Black Adam comes up as the highest-grossing film on this list, making just about $200 million less than what it needed to make to get anywhere near breaking even. Why did this one bomb? Oh shit, it's Dwayne. Run, everybody! His budget is so big! Also, the reviews were either mixed or ass. Do I need to explain more? Moving on! Turning Red is up next, and its financial failure can kind of be blamed on one thing. No, it wasn't because it had scenes dealing with basic human anatomy and bodily functions. It's because it didn't release in the fucking US theatrically, or really anywhere else. That's literally it. Okay, so moving woker, we've got Lightyear. Lightyear gained controversy because it had a flashback of some memories that show a lesbian couple kissing and raising a kid for like a minute. My God, clutch my pearls, that's just the worst thing. The kids are going to get gayed because of this brainwashing. In all honesty, the controversy only really got it banned from the Middle East, a territory that doesn't really have a ton of deciding power over if a film succeeds or not. No. It bombed because it had a huge budget of $200 million, and it also was a movie about something that people really didn't think was necessary. Like, who wanted to see the Lightyear movie? Hold on, Sonny, we've got to catch up on the Lightyear lore before watching Toy Story. Yeah, right. It really sucks that so much creative effort was put into a mediocre movie. Also, it had a lot of competition from another really shitty movie, but that one made money. So, big budget, lack of interest, and competition were all there. Hitting the peak of wokeness in 2022, we've got Strange World. So, did Strange World go broke from the woke? Not really. When it came out and bombed on arrival, just about everyone commenting on it collectively let out a, "Wait, what? When did this thing come out? I've never seen anything about it." And that was kind of the big issue. It wasn't marketed at all. Add on to that middling reviews in comparison to films like Encanto, competition with Black Panther 2, and a fucking World Cup, and you've got yourself a movie that kind of just fades into distant memory after December passes by. So, in conclusion, is go woke, go broke a thing? Not really. The only movie here that I can say was even maybe affected to a severe degree was Strange World, and even then it had a lot going against it. So yeah, stop trying to blame the success of films on the fact that they're not woke, you fucking mouth breathers. It's because the stuff that's successful is based on insanely recognizable IP or is a legacy sequel. Success can't be measured by the fact that some character in your movie is or isn't part of a certain demographic. Get a fucking grip. Anyways, that's it. I'll hopefully be going over some movies that I love in the next video. See you sometime, and don't go woke, you guys, because you might spend too much money on a movie and then it'll bomb at the box office, so then you can have right-wing commentators blame it on having an LGBTQ character, and then you can just throw it in the rearview mirror and blame it on the wokeness and then never be woke again.